Hey there! Have you ever wondered how the snake game works and how you could create one from scratch? If you are watching this video, my guess is that you are learning Python and you are looking for cool projects to practice. In this tutorial, you will learn how to program a snake game like the one you can see here using Python and Pygame. I have simplified the game and break down the code in small functions so this tutorial is easy to follow. Plus, we will build the game gradually. First, we will start by drawing a square that moves around the screen. Next, we will make several blocks move, which create the snake effect. Next, we will add food and make the snake grow when it hits or when it finds food. And last step, we will modify the game so it's over when the snake hits any of the edges. So without further ado, let's get started. First part is creating a square that moves around the screen when we press any of the arrow keys. Since we are going to use the Pygame library, I will import it here. Please make sure before you do that you have installed the library using the pip tool. We will need to start the game engine using pygame.init, and now we will create a window that will contain our game with pygame.display.setMode. And here we need to indicate the dimensions of the window. I will represent the game as a matrix, so imagine the display as a matrix with 60 columns and 40 rows, and each of the blocks is a square of 10 by 10 pixels. Therefore, the width will be 60 columns by 10 pixels per block, and the height will be 40 rows by 10 pixels per block. This will return the window, which is the surface where we will draw all the other game elements. Next, we will add the title to the window using pygame.display.setCaption, and the title will be Snake Game. And we will also need to create a clock. The clock is used in Pygame to indicate to the engine how often the display should update per second. This will be enough to create the game window, but it will finish the execution and close the game straight away. So we will need to keep the window open while the game is not over. So we will need a loop for this. So I'm going to create a function that will contain all the game logic, and I will call it game loop. So I will start here by creating a variable called GameOver, which at the start of the game will be false, since the game just started, and then I will add a while loop, which should keep running while the game is not over, so not game over. Now we want the window to close when we click the close button. To do so, you will need to add a for loop that will go through the events that the game is receiving. You can access this using pygame.event.get. And then, if the event type is equal to quit, then it means someone clicked the close button, so we will change the game over to true, and the program will end the loop. Otherwise, if no one clicks close, then we will fill our window with black, so we will use surface.fill and then the black color, which is 000. Then we need to request to Pygame to update the display using pygame.display.update. And next we will indicate the number of frames per second, which is going to be 15 in this case. Perfect, so now the code will create the window for our game. Now make sure we call the function so that this code actually gets executed. And also we need to make sure that when the game finishes executing the function, we close the game engine using pygame.quit. Alright, so let's try this and see if it works. And awesome, we have our game window working now. Next, we want to draw the snake head, which will be a square in the middle. We would like to place the snake head somewhere in the middle, so for instance, column 30 and row 20. So what does that mean? So we are using a matrix to divide the canvas. The reason is that when you are placing stuff on a canvas, it's much easier to deal with columns and rows than deal with pixels. So this will be our matrix, where the top left corner is 0, 0, and then the position column 30 and row 20 is approximately in the middle. So I will create two variables, x1 and y1, and one is the column and the y1 is the row. And now I need to draw the rectangle in this position. To do so, I'm going to create a function called drawSingleBlock. And I will pass two arguments, the position which contains the column and the row, and also the color. If we want to draw a rectangle in Pygame, we will use the function pygame.draw.rect, which need to know a few things. First, the surface or the window where you are drawing, which in our case is surface, then the color, and then a tuple which contains four things: x, y, width, and height, where x and y are the coordinates of the top left corner from where to start drawing, and then the dimensions of the rectangle. So the x coordinate will be the column where we want to place the rectangle multiplied by the rectangle size, which is 10. And then the y coordinate can be calculated using the row multiplied by the block size, which is also 10. And then we pass the dimensions, which are the block size in both cases. So let's now call this function from the game and see if it works. Awesome, so now we draw a rectangle in the middle. So we went through how to create the game window and how to draw the snake head. So now let's see how to move the snake head and change direction when we press the arrow key. So I'm gonna start defining a variable called direction, and I will assign up to start. And now our chain needs to pick up every time we press an arrow key. To do that, I'm going to create another function which I will call detectDirection, and I will have two parameters, the current direction and the event receive. So the possible directions here are up, down, right, or left. So I will check if the event type is a key down, in other words, if someone pressed the key, and if so, I will check if the key is the left arrow key, and if so, I will return that the direction should be left. And I will do the same for the right, up, and down arrow keys. And otherwise, if any other key was pressed, I will leave the direction untouched. So that is our function to work out in which direction the block should move depending on the key that the user pressed. And now I need to call the new function from the game loop. So I will call it from inside the for loop, where I'm listening from game events. So awesome, now that we have the direction, we should update the position of the snake head. For instance, if the head is in column 30 and row 20, and I want to move up, then the position will be column 30, so the same column, and then row 19, which will be the row right above. Or if we want to move to the left, the position is same row and the column -1. So row 20 and then column 29. Okay, so let's write the function that work out the next position of the snake head based on the direction. So I will call the function moveBlock, and as parameters I will pass the column, the row, and the direction. So if the direction is left, that means that we should update the column doing -1. If the direction is right, we will do column +1, and so on for the other two directions. And finally, we will return the new column and the row. So now we have just created a function, so we need to call it from the game loop. So I will call it right after the for loop, and then update the game head position with the new position. So that will mean that every time we draw the rectangle, we will draw it in the new position, and that will create the illusion of movement. So awesome, that's all we have to do. So let's run the game now. And perfect, the snake head is moving now. Awesome, so in the next video I will show you how you can create a snake that has several blocks instead of just one single block. I hope you enjoyed the video so far, and I will see you in the next one.